introduce whoever's going to speak, but I guess I'm going to do it tonight, right? Why don't you guys sit up here some more? Come on. So we're all together. We all close. Yes. Let's make this more intimate. Right? Yes, yes. So we are gonna pray a little bit before we begin, right? And let's close our eyes. And let's just take a deep breath and connect within, connect with the spirituality of this house. And let's just show how grateful we are. Gratitude is always a beautiful tool to use anytime in any prayer. And we just want to express our gratitude for all that we have built, for all the love, for this beautiful connection, for the opportunities for the choices that we are making towards peace, towards self-healing, towards connection, towards wisdom, understanding, towards growth, towards progress. We are so grateful for being here and for being able to communicate and to share our love and to learn and to be participating in this beautiful experience, in this beautiful energy. We thank you, spirituality of the house, the highest spirits, all the spirituality that is present, wanting to learn, wanting to grow, wanting to access. Thank you, and so be it. So tonight, I've tried doing speaking with a lot of words, with a lot, and building this whole thing, but then it never goes well. It's always best when I speak of my heart and what I know and my experiences. It always comes out better for some reason. I don't know why, but I was praying, meditating. It's usually how I access. Sometimes, when I have questions, serious questions about my personal life, anything in my life, back then, it's how I think we all learned on how to communicate, right, with the spirituality above, is to pray, right? That's how the root, the essence of how we learned on how to communicate through religion. Most of us Catholics, right, and other religions, of course, we learn that there's God and the angels, in the religious path that we grew. And then we closed our eyes, and a lot of us bent our knees on the floor, right? A lot of that. And then we believed that prayer it's not that we believed. Yeah, we believed as well, but I think we were taught, right? Because that's how we start believing things, through teachings, right? Our mom, our father, life experiences we learn, right? And we were taught that in order for us to communicate and to God, because that was the main thing back then, right? It was God and saints and whatever, however you used to communicate, is that when you close your eyes and you pray and you have faith, right? And you close your eyes, if you have faith and you pray believing that you are going to get something, but then after that, there was a huge comma. If you deserve, right? If you deserve, you have to have faith and you have to believe when you pray. But if you deserve, you will get. If God thinks you deserve, you will get whatever you prayed for eventually. It might take a year. God might listen to your prayer, but he might be too busy. And then because he's busy, I don't know if you guys remember that when you were little. If God is busy, you know, he might be busy, so you got to be patient. You know, it will come one day, right? Your prayer, what you want, how you want it done in your life, one day it will come to you. And if it doesn't come, what you need to do is keep praying, right? Because if you have so much faith, one day God will listen to you. And he will give you what you want. Well, I grew up hearing that. My grandmother used to tell me all these things. And anyways, but what happens, right, when you pray and you pray and you pray and you're still praying? And what is happening? Is God, are you not deserving? Is God mean? Why is it that you haven't gotten what you wanted yet? What do you guys think?
He's busy.
He's busy? That's what you think? Are you sure? You really think he's busy? No? What is it?
God tests too.
Huh?
God tests one too.
It's a test? He's just testing you since you're born? Testing.
Be sure that you really believe him.
Okay. Testing your faith.
Yeah.
Testing your faith. You think God is testing your faith?
Yeah.
Okay, is that what you think? Okay. What else?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's a matter of faith. When you really ask with that faith that God wants, you get it.
Okay, when you
Like Jesus said, ask and you get it.
ask and I shall give it to you. It's saying in the Bible, ask and I shall give it to you. But what happens when you've been asking your whole life? Does God, do you think that a lot of people lose faith in God because they ask, and they were never given? And why?
No.
What happens?
The people got sometimes desperate for some miracle, but God always listens.
God always
listens.
listens. Okay.
Only you can keep praying.
You got to keep praying hard.
And he will, give whatever
And he
you
will
ask
eventually
for.
give whatever you ask for.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think? Any other opinions?
No hours. If somebody pray for all three of them, let this person die, and then they die, what happens? So,
That's a good example. That's a very good example.
But there are other people who are asking for money.
Money? Well, people ask for all kinds of things, right? It's okay. There's nothing wrong with asking for money. But why do some people get so much and why other people don't get almost nothing at all? Or nothing? What? Is their God different than our God?
No.
So what's happening?
They deserve faster than others.
They deserve? You think that's what it is?
About deserving, the energy that they go through, all the thought, the feelings, everything. Yeah,
The energy, the thoughts, the feelings. So, okay.
Maybe also it's a test. God gave the money and said, let's see what you do with the money. You're going to, you're going to spend it.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that God, right? You're saying that I have a son, for an example, and my son was born with disability. And my friend has a son, perfect son. How do you explain that? Is God different? Does God love my friend more than he loves me? Because I was praying and she was praying. Her son is perfect. My son is not.
See, this kind of stuff that made me look for answers.
Okay.
I was Catholic. I was raised Catholic, but I asked God, why this kid that's innocent is. That time when I was a little girl, there was a lot of paralysia in childhood. And why this doesn't? And I asked my mom, he said God's will.
God's
will.
Yeah,
but
So
okay.
God's will is good for some people and bad for some people? Really? Is that really who God is?
Yeah,
Do you really believe that?
I couldn't accept.
Yeah.
So when my father got sick, I was 10 years old, and nobody, no doctor would find out what he had, but he's still sick. And then my grandmother didn't want us to take him to a spiritualist center, but my mom took him anyways, and then she had to work two jobs to feed us, So I was 10, 11 years. I used to take him to, the white table that everybody sits, and he would sit too because one lady said he was a medium. He should sit at the table. And then suddenly he had a spirit came on him. It was a guy that had just died on the road. And he was crying. My dad never did that. So I started believing. And they would read part of the gospel according to the spiritualist. And then I started getting my mind. And then I said, oh, that's why.
You started getting some answers. Yeah.
And
So I think that what does the Spirit's book says about who God is? Does anybody know?
it's a creator of everything.
The Creator?
No.
Is that what it says?
No reason. I forgot.
What does it say? Anybody knows? God is the supreme intelligence. He's not the creator, right? He says that he's the supreme intelligence, and what else says about after that? Does it say that he's the creator of all things? Is that what it says? Yeah? The supreme intelligence and then the creator of all things? Is that what it says after
First
that?
cause.
The
Says first cause.
the first cause of all things?
I don't know of all things, but it does say
The
first
first cause?
cause. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so it doesn't say he's the creator, of course, but God is supreme intelligence. So God, the opposite of what we've been thinking and learning and even talking about here, is that God is not a person. We always thought he was a person. God is not a person. God is the supreme intelligence. Is a supreme intelligence a person? It does not define him as a person in the Spirit's book. You know why? Because he's not a person. He's pure love. He's the supreme intelligence. He is everything that exists. We are all one We all part of this, what we call God. We are creators. You know what that means? We create. The universe, right, gives us that power to create. When we are asking God, please do this, this, and this for me, and the Bible even says that we are gods. Have you ever seen that in the Bible?
Yeah.
Jesus said that to the apostle that were trying to make a miracle and they didn't get it. So we're trying here 2 hours to make the guy be good. And then you come and like this, and then he said, you all are gods. You only have to have faith.
Exactly. We are all gods. So now, going back to what I was saying earlier, we pray, we asking God, we asking God. You know why? Sometimes when we pray and we ask, it doesn't work. Because we learn so much that we have to ask something outside of us. Right? Well, that's what we learned, that we have to connect with this power, this God, this man, this mean man that sometimes doesn't give you because you don't deserve. And then we learn that, and that's why we are not getting what we want. We need to understand one thing. We are gods. And it's not through prayers, because see, the pineal gland connects us with the spirituality that exists without here in the universe. The pineal gland also connects us with the spirituality that exists within. And what we learned is if you pray without asking here, you will get what you want. But it's when you meditate and access within that you can create what you want and get what you want. And these people that are successful, that have everything they want, that manifest and it happens in their lives, it's because they've learned the secret on how and who to ask. They're not asking any source outside of themselves. They're asking themselves because they realize that they have that power, that they are divine, that they are God. And after you start believing in that, you start developing what I was going to talk about tonight, which is self-love. Right? We lose the ability to love ourselves. Believe me, all of us. When we are born, we are perfect, right? We know everything, we're happy. We don't know anything. But then the experiences that we have throughout life. You know, a patient was telling me today, I don't know who, well, we were talking about how, oh, okay, I remember. We were talking about how she was sitting with her daughter. Her daughter's about 2-3 years old, I believe. And her mother-in-law was there. And her mother-in-law kept saying something negative to her daughter. That's what she said, I remember now. You're a bad girl. You're a bad girl. How many times, how many words, how many of you here tonight have almost the voice of your mother or of your father recorded in your head saying, you're so dumb. You don't know what you're doing. You're not good enough. You're not capable.
You never learn.
You never learn. Right? How many of us here tonight have that? Not judging our mothers because they did the best they could with what they had. because we only share, we can only teach what we know, right? It's not, so we need to understand that as well, right? But I'm just saying this just so we can understand that self-love, or the lack of self-love, is built throughout our life experiences, right? Some of us can say, that person doesn't know how to love. How many times we've said that? We judge that way, right? But have we ever really thought about and stopped and really thought about that person, or your mother, or your father? How many patients I've had that said, Roberta, my mom or my dad never said I love you to me. But have we ever thought about that maybe nobody said I love you to them, or even did I love you to them? Because more powerful than saying I love you is when you do I love you. Saying I love you is nothing, right? It's when you do I love you. But a lot of people cannot do that, and a lot of people cannot feel that, and a lot of people don't even know how to love. And if you don't know, it all starts from not knowing, not practicing self-love. Because we can only give what we have. If you don't love yourself, you're not going to be able to give that to anybody, because you don't know how to do it with yourself, right? If you cannot forgive yourself, how are you going to forgive somebody else? Right? We can't give what we don't have. So in talking about self-love, what are the ways I want everybody to share, because we all know, we've all experienced all of this. What are some ways what are some factors that have depleted our ability to love ourselves? What is it that has happened to us along our way that have blinded our ability to practice self-love? What do you think? Can somebody share? Or maybe we should talk about what is self-love. Anybody?
You have to clean yourself first in order to forgive another person. That's the thing. And then self-love, always you have to practice self-love with you.
But how do you practice self-love? What is self-love?
Before people don't used to take care for yourself. Physical, mental, spiritual, you have to do that all the time.
Okay.
So this is like a food soap. Food.
Self-love. All right.
So that's when you learn to validate you first one,
Okay.
and then grow.
Okay. Validation, self-validation, and grow. Very good. What else?
Well,
what is self-love?
I lately have learned about self-love in things that I've been doing to improve my spirituality. Because before that, I never heard that.
No.
Self-love, self-forgiveness.
What is self-love? Does anybody know?
Well, maybe I have learned either that you have to come look at the mirror and see you and say, I love you too.
That's one of the ways you can practice, by reprogramming your brain. Very good. To help yourself believe, right, that you are capable of loving yourself, right?
Then talk to yourself.
When positive self-talk is huge, definitely.
Cells. Your
Very
cells,
good.
right?
Very
Cells
good.
Get better.
Yes.
Drink
Yes.
water. I think the water is going
Very
to
good. That's another way. Very good.
all the cells of your body.
Excellent.
For me, not that's what it is. For me, self-love is to learn, understand, and to know who you really are. Like knowing that who I am, so I start loving myself when I realize that. That in my case, was that I know. I think self-love is when you understand who you really are. So then
Becoming aware of who
Aware,
you really
that's-
are.
yeah.
Very good. Excellent. What else you guys think self-love applies to?
I embrace myself. And I
You hug
love
yourself
myself.
and you say, I love you. That's a really good thing to do.
I love
Yes,
me.
yes, yes.
I do
It's-
that.
Yeah, when we are able to change our mindsets, right? Because our mindset, what does mindset mean? Anybody knows? It's the way you believe. Not because you want to believe a lot of the times, it's because you were built to believe. The patterns that brought you throughout your experiences, your life experiences, got you to this place of where you formed your personality, your character, right? And self-love, in my opinion, is very, when you say self-love, it sounds very general, right? Because look, when we talk about self, right? But which self are we talking about? Think about that. Because when you talk about self-love, I could be talking about my body. When I say self-love here, she could be thinking, I hug myself, I put lipstick on, I practice self-love, I get ready, I always look pretty, I always get my nails done. That's self-love, right? Isn't it? Massage, that's self-love. But that is body self-love, which is very important. We got to take care of our body, right? But if we think about, there's not only physical self-love, there's also what? Spiritual self-love. What else? Mental self-love, right? So I think self-love is a conjunction when we understand that there's not just this, that we are a lot more, right, than the physical or the mental, right? We are energy. We are powerful beings. We are just occupying this body in this life, right? But I don't say this meaning that that is just what we are. We are not, right? Because we are living here in this moment. Let's not make this just a spiritual thing. It's not. We are a conjunction right now in the awareness that we have today, right? We need to practice self-love towards our physical being, our spiritual being, our mental being. But with the understanding, deeper understanding, that who we really are is our spiritual selves. That's why we're here, because we believe in that. That's why we have this awareness, and that's why we are studying, and we are growing, we are progressing, we are studying about it. But I believe that when you practice physical self-love is very important. It's not, I see a lot of people that are spiritists or that come to spiritual centers, and they want to show people that they're so simple, they don't dress up nice, they just don't care about their looks, their appearance, because I'm so humble, I'm so simple. It's not about that. Simplicity and humbleness comes from inside. It's not about the outside. And we have that tendency to just hyper focus on the outside. And that is the problem with us. We have so much of that tendency that I know so many people, and I help a lot of people during the day that are so preoccupied with the physical, material, and they forget, right? Oh, but I work out. Oh yeah, I work out. You know, most people work out these days, right? They're so worried about, no, my organs, everything needs to work, everything. But then they forget here, their mental bodies. They forget their spiritual bodies, right? And we need to understand that real self-love comes with embracing and understanding and becoming aware of everything that you are. All the good parts that you are and all the bad. Because we are. Unfortunately and fortunately, we are experiencing it. We chose to. Right? And we need to practice the awareness that we are capable of observing ourselves from the outside. How, Roberta? Meditation. You are able to observe yourself in silence. I was talking to a patient today, she said, I hate silence. Even when I'm working, the TV needs to be on, the radio, and when other things, I don't mind working, noise. And she struggles with negative thoughts, a lot of racing thoughts. Some people, believe me or not, they have never experienced silence in their mind. And if you have never experienced silence, I'm very sorry, because that's not the normal pattern of how it should be. And then I asked her a question. Why do you think? Why do you run from silence? Is it because, is there something in the silence that you don't want to hear? Is there something in the silence, in the blank, in observing with no judgment, that you're going to see? Then we need to ask ourselves that more often. What is it that I don't see about this whole part of who I am that I need to understand and see and become more aware of? So maybe I can change this pattern that I keep repeating because I was so hurt in understanding and accessing self-love in the process of living my life and experiencing everything that I have experienced. What is it that I cannot see yet, right? So practicing self-love is not something simple. Not that simple as we imagine it is. Because in order for us to practice self-love, the first step is to become aware of all parts of ourselves that we are giving too much or lacking a lot, so we can bring balance to everything, right? And what is the number one thing that holds us back from practicing self-love? Does anybody know? Think about it. What is it that gets in our way?
Fear.
Fear is very good, excellent, but it's not fear. The fear is excellent, but fear is not. That is actually the second thing I was going to talk about. But the first, the most important, the problem that blinds us all.
I think
Judgment. Self-criticism. Right? Because we judge ourselves at all times. And then we wonder why we judge people all the time. It's just because we are judging ourselves and we're not even aware of it half of the time. We judge ourselves a lot. And then we judge other people a lot. And that's the number one thing that blocks the access, to acknowledging all the beauty and everything that we are, and loving all of that. Because loving the good is very easy, right? when you meet somebody, right? You're in love. Oh my God, I found the man of my dreams, the woman of my dreams. But then you're going out, you're having fun, and then you get married, and then you're living together. That's when you're like, oh, wait a minute. This person has defects too. Oh, look at that. He's a human, just like me. We all have defects, right? And then you start understanding that, wait a minute, I need to love, because love is not about loving the qualities. It's loving the defects. Because then when you're able to love the defects, then you love. And then let's talk about us again. When you're able to love your defects, all your flaws, that's when you are really practicing self-love. And then you say, you know what, Roberta? So what? I understand, I see, I am observing, I'm looking at it with no judgment, with love and kindness. And I accept you for exactly who you are. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's when we start to learn on how to practice self-love, is when we recognize that we have defects, we have flaws, and that we are capable, able of forgiving ourselves. We are able to let go. And because, see, the problem with us is that we can always identify what is wrong with everybody else, right? But identify what is wrong with you. I want to see that. If I ask Rose, you know Rose over there, what are her defects? Tell me some flaws that she has. You're going to be like, oh, this, and that. Look at that. You're going to be very quick to judge, and you see, you know, you already know her. We're in class together, we know each other. You can say, oh, she talks a lot, or whatever, right? No, she never talks. I'm just, but, right? We are very quick to identify everybody's defects. But when I ask you, Rose, tell me 3 of your defects.
Oh.
Tell me.
3?
3. Tell me. Just 3? Tell me, please.
I'm stubborn.
Stubborn, okay.
And everything.
See how hard it is? She's taking a long time.
No, but you should come out of the water with that one.
What else?
Yeah, so I'm very perfection.
You are a perfectionist? But look at that. Let me stop you right there. You know, when we say our flaws to people, we usually say our flaws in a very fancy way. You know, being a perfectionist is cool sometimes. You know, I'm a perfectionist, meaning, hey, I do everything perfect. It's almost like you're not really telling me your defect. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. No, but
it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, because we all do that unconsciously. It's unconscious. You know, we are not going to tell people the real defects. We're not. We don't even tell ourselves. We don't even know.
I talk a lot. That's it.
You talk a lot? I don't think you talk a lot.
No.
Anyways, do you see what I mean? It's us with us. There's nothing to prove to anybody. Nothing. We have nothing to prove to it. It's the meditation. You go in and you are ready to observe yourself, all the beauty that exists within you, and all the flaws. Because when we identify, when we are able to identify the problem, that is the only way we can fix it. There's no other way. Have you noticed when you're driving that everybody that drives around you is horrible drivers? They're the worst. Floridians are the worst drivers. I promise everybody that is in here, I am sure that everybody has made that comment in here.
You met us.
And we all drive. And we all think everybody else is a horrible driver. And we yell and we are screaming. Sometimes we get mad. But if you ask the guy driving next to you, you are the horrible driver.
Yeah.
Right? So what we need to do is minimize or just completely delete self-criticism, because that will bring you nowhere. It will.
How to do that?
Huh?
How to do that?
How to minimize? Very good question. I love that. Okay. The more, believe me, I'm being honest with you, the more, at least is one of the ways that I know how to do it. The more that you get to know yourself through meditation and observing with love and kindness, the less you're going to criticize yourself. I don't even know how to explain. Meditation changed my life. And it's still changing my life. So honestly, I think that is a wonderful way to learn how to do it. And another way is huge. I teach my patients that all the time. It's positive self-talk. There is something in psychology called the cognitive triangle. I don't know if anybody heard of it. No? It's called the cognitive triangle. It's like a triangle. So from my head to my shoulders and my other shoulder, if you think about it, you can draw a triangle, right? So the cognitive triangle talks about how our thoughts here, the thoughts are not in here, the thoughts are here, energies, right? The thoughts could be when you walk out of here, you are thinking about what I said. I'm sharing this energy with you. Words are energy, right? Everything is energy. I'm sharing this energy. You leave and you're going to think about what Roberta talked about. The thoughts are here. But how about there are other energies, right? All kinds of energies, right? And then the thoughts. Psychology proves that 95% of our thoughts are subconscious, thoughts that we have no access to. We don't even know. We only have access to 5% of our thoughts. And if you go into Spiritism, spirituality, then it's a whole different night that I have to speak about that. But the thoughts are here, the emotions are here, and the action is here. We think, we feel, we act. We think, we feel, we act. This is the cognitive triangle. We think, we feel, we act. And this goes really fast. Right? It's energy, and it flows really fast. So another way to change self-criticism is to become aware of your thoughts. And then when you are aware of what's here, before it gets in here and it hits here, changes your feelings, your emotions, and then makes you act in impulsive ways or say impulsive things, you change your thoughts. How? You identify that thought and you change that thought. I teach this a lot to people that have a lot of anxiety and negative thoughts. So you change the negative thinking. You're stupid. You're not going to be able to do that. You're a loser. You're this. I'm never going to achieve. So all these thoughts, you identify one and you purposely change that negative thought to a positive. You transform that positive. You will never make it. Yes, I will make it. In fact, I am going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to formulate, I have this goal, and then you start talking positive self-talk. You change that negative thought to a positive, and now you went even deeper. Now you are thinking about all these things that you can do to maintain the positivity that you just spoke about out loud to yourself, however you did it. And now you change that negative thought. You're criticizing yourself. Oh, look how fat you look. And then you go, oh, you know what? yeah, I have a few more extra pounds, but guess what? I will lose. In fact, I'm going to stop today. In fact, I'm going to start eating healthier. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm not going to eat at night anymore. And then you apply. And then you talk about it, and you do it purposely. Because you know when somebody tells you something and you get mad at the person, and just because you got mad, you're going to do it. You're gonna be like, that person just challenged you, and now you really want to work on whatever you were challenged about. That's what you got to do. And then you do that, and at the end of the night, you're going to be like, oh, look at that. And then you continue, because we need to build different patterns, because what we've learned needs to be destroyed. You need to let go of that. All those old patterns that are hurting you. And in order for you to build new patterns, you need to change your mindset. When you change your mindset by purposely using positive self-talk and changing the negative thoughts to positive, then you start believing that that is actually what you're going to do. That is actually who you are. And you need to keep repeating that to yourself. And then it becomes a habit. And everything that becomes a habit becomes, you become the habit. You are creating that, whatever you are constructing. How do you say it? Whatever you're building. So you're becoming that. That's how you change. One of the other ways you can change self-criticism, right? You have to act like as if you're your mother, right there on your shoulders. A good mother, positive mother. No, you can do this. You're capable. You know what you need to do? Get up, do your bed, go brush your teeth, get something to motivate yourself. Go watch a good movie. Don't watch the news. Go read a good book. Go to the gym. You need to be your own self-motivator, right? And that's how we do it. The second that I'm not going to talk about because we got to go is that holds us back is fear, right? We terrorize ourselves with things that we say to ourselves. And again, going back to that, positive self-talk. Not believing in your thoughts, because a lot of those thoughts are not your thoughts. You just think they are. They're coming from your mom. They're coming from other experiences you've had in life, repeated patterns, negative patterns that you experienced. Or they're coming from other energies, right? They're not your thoughts. And that is another way to change self-criticism and build self-love, is to understand that a lot of the times you have a thought and you're like, but I'm not that person. I don't want to think that. But why are you thinking that? Why you keep thinking what you don't want to think? To me, that tells me how much that thought is not coming from me. It's coming from a different energy. So you can say, just the same way you would say to somebody that approaches, you don't even know that person, that person says, look at how ugly your hair is. You would say, you know what? What does that matter? Your opinion doesn't matter. I love my hair. Look at that. That's what you need to do with these thoughts, the negative thoughts, right? Your opinion doesn't matter, because that is not something I want to think. That's not how I see myself. That's not how I think about myself. And positive self-talk again, right? Thank you, guys. Thank you all. Does anybody want to come up here and do the